Hey, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. What would you like to talk about?
Um, I guess we could talk, but any of them, all of them seem fine. Freedom, Christian national. I'm probably not too familiar with probably what you mean by Christian nationalism. Um, so probably the most simpler one would probably be the pro-life, pro-choice conversation. I am a pro-life advocate.
Okay,
I
so
believe, yeah,
real quick, just to clarify, what I mean by Christian nationalists is Christians that want the law of the land to be biblical. They want their religion and the people that are Christians to have more of a say of how things are run than other citizens.
okay.
Do you agree with that?
Um, Not necessarily. I don't think that necessarily. I believe that inherently that there are some things that I would probably advocate for, but not obviously not everything,
Okay,
but some things. So I don't know if that's like a partial Christian nationalist or something. I don't know, but like obviously some things I would advocate through a biblical. I am a biblicist, so through a biblical perspective, sure, but not certainly not everything.
sure. Just in a simpler form, you would rather live in a society that allows freedom for everyone, including Christians, and not just freedom for only Christians, right?
Correct.
All right, awesome. So you were saying pro-life, pro-choice. Would you like to share with us your position?
Um, sure. I would say um, the pro life position, number one, is that um, it's based on human rights at conception. So from the moment of conception, an individual human being with its own unique existence um, is there. This life, this human being deserve rights, especially the right to life. So based on like this dignity that this human being has, um, just like we grant every other human member of the human family rights, we should also grant the small child rights as well. Is there a reason why we shouldn't grant the child in the womb a rights?
So I think that this is an interesting question with this conversation because I think that we can grant the fetus 100% human rights, and it would still not have the right to use the woman's body in a way that she does not consent to. It's. I understand the point. I don't see how that gives us the right to stomp on her rights to force her to carry
How are we forcing her to carry? That's where I'm a little confused.
by saying that she can't terminate the pregnancy. So the way that I see it is that no one has the right to use another person's body in a way that that person does not consent to, even to live. So if you have my blood type, if you have an organ or something that I would need, I cannot force you to give that to me, even if it means I'll die. You have every right to say no. You have every right to say yes and then change your mind and say no, up to the point before they put you under. And that is well within your right, both morally and legally. So I don't understand why, in this case, even if we grant full rights to the fetus, why we would then say, oh, this is different. We're going to stomp on this woman's rights anyway and ensure that this individual can use her body in a way that she doesn't consent to.
Well, firstly, I would argue that body autonomy, the argument that you're employing, body autonomy is important, but it's not an absolute right. So we live in a society where our body autonomy is limited in regards to preventing harm to others. So the fetus, as a living human being, has the right to life, which is an absolute right, and that right has to be weighed against the mother's body autonomy. So just as
Well,
parents
no,
can't
that
neglect
was
your
that was
children.
actually my point that I addressed is that no one has the right to use another person's body in a way they don't consent to, even to live. That's the entire point of bringing up, I can't take your blood. I can't take your organs. Even if you were my parent and I was your child, that cannot be forced on you. So why are we suddenly just excluding this one group of citizens from this right that we grant everybody else?
Could you give an example that's analogous to that? Like give me like some
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, I'm saying that.
hypothetical
So,
or
so,
something.
so yeah. So let's say that the doctors find out that a child has, leukemia or something like that, and then they find out that they can, do a treatment that involves getting some kind of blood, bone marrow, whatever the case is, from one of the parents. Let's say the parent doesn't want to do it. We cannot make that parent give up their bodily fluids, their bodily organs, or anything like that for their child. We cannot make a sibling do it for a sibling. We can't make a stranger do it for a stranger. Just because you can extend the life does not mean that you have to use your own body in order to do it. So these are the rights that people have. They can make these choices for themselves.
Okay.
And you're
So
saying that in this case, pregnancy, suddenly we're not giving that right to the woman. We're saying no, it doesn't matter because someone else's rights matter more than yours.
there's I can go ahead and break up that there's a symmetry breaker there between the two examples. So there's a huge difference between the fetus in the case of an abortion, and there's and the difference between the example you gave of the child with leukemia who needs the blood or organ of the particular parent, and why those are two different things. And if you were to argue that they're the same or they're synonymous, that you would be committing a logical fallacy. So let me explain why there's a big difference. So the difference between an abortion and refusing to donate stem cells or whatever you just said is that abortion is an active act, so that it directly it directly unalives the fetus. In contrast, refusing to donate stem cells or whatever, blood, is a passive refusal to provide bodily resources. So
I,
there's a
I, I
moral
would say that that is
distinction.
an active act. Purposely choosing to withhold life saving resources from someone is an active decision and an active action that you are continuing to do up until the
Yeah,
point where that person expires.
that's incorrect. Categorically, that would be false because in the active act of an abortion. Let me ask you a question. Let's just say in that reason, a child with leukemia. Let's say the parent decides not to provide the stem cells. What happens to the child in your example?
If another donor cannot be found in time, then the child expires
Okay, so the child expires. Why did the child expire?
because resources were withheld from them, and they did not get the resources that they needed in order
Okay,
to live.
so what's the cause of death?
Not being able to get the resources they needed in
No,
order to
sir. The
live.
cause of death. No. The cause of death is leukemia, not because it's limited resources. So the cause of death would be leukemia. In the case of an abortion, what would be the cause of death?
They wouldn't have the resources necessary in order to live.
No, the cause of death would be murder via or the actual doctor that went in there and crushed the skull of the fetus. Correct. So there's a difference between crushing the skull of a fetus and actually just deciding not to
Yeah,
deliver
I
resources
don't know
to
what
a
kind
kid
of abortions they're talking about for
that
that.
was already passing away.
So, majority of abortions happen not at the time period that you're trying to say or describe at. And what you're talking about as far as that, like third trimester abortions, I have a different pitch as to how we ought to do third trimester abortions. So my position isn't, 100% what everyone else has.
Well, any stage of abortion is it's still going to be graphic, whether we're talking about the pill, which is going to stop the heart of the fetus before
Hmm.
it's expelled by the mom. All of it's still going to be different. The cause of death is going to be via the abortion, not because of leukemia or whatever disease the child might have had before. So that's not
So
really analogous. You have to find another example.
So let me ask you then, what do you think is the best solution for us as a society for this problem? Like moving forward, what do you think we should do?
I think there's a few things I think we do. I think that my wife just said educate. That's a good one, babe. Obviously, education is a big thing, but I think that we protect the innocent. I think that children are the most innocent and fragile among us, and they need our protection. And as a society, I think we do a terrible job. If we cannot protect the most innocent among us, then I think that's a terrible society. And so I think number one, we should protect children. We should consider the rights, and even though they might not have as lot, just because like I don't grab my daughter because I'm stronger and bigger than her and hurt her. I protect her. I use my the same strength that I can use to harm her. I use that same strength to protect her. I think that we should educate and give educate and give everybody the ability to, or the not the ability, the knowledge to protect children. So I think we should start there in regards to that issue. We should protect and not harm.
Okay, I like the point for education. I'm not sure if we're 100% on the same page with it, though. What do you mean we should educate? Like, what are we educating about? About what abortions are, or like safe sex, or what are we educating?
I didn't say education. My wife, she just said that education in regards to like safe sex,
That's great. Yeah.
um, preventing pregnancy, and all of those things. I wouldn't necessarily agree. I don't think education obviously a part of it, but I think more what Trump said is just the protecting innocent life. I think that that's a big point. So I think we start
Do
there. We
you
go back
think
to
that a
protecting.
good way to protect innocent life is to give a very detailed sex education to people, and that way they
Um,
have the knowledge so that they can, have more of an understanding of how to prevent pregnancy, so that abortions like this don't happen.
no, not necessarily. I don't think that sex education is like pivotal for that. I think that obviously I
Does
think that that's something that
does
I
your
think.
wife think that sex education is a
Well,
way
yeah, obviously
to help that?
yeah, she does. Yeah, she does. But we're not talking to her. We're talking to me.
No, I was just wondering because it was the point that she brought up.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I do want to get to
clearly she
your
does.
main point for protecting the innocent kids. I agree with you that we should protect the innocent. Definitely. What does that look like for you?
Well, I think it looks like not harming them, not causing them harm, not hurting their body, not using the strength and power that we have because their voices are small or they don't have the ability to speak or they don't have the ability to be heard to then use that as a space to dominate them. That's what that looks like, protecting them because they are innocent and they deserve that.
We're talking about the unborn, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Not because
Sure.
again, when we're talking about the unborn, they're just smaller. They don't have a voice. Like if the unborn had some sort of level of sentience where we could hear them cry or hear them hurt or hear their pain, we probably like, hey, we probably don't want to hurt them. We need to figure out how to protect them. But because they're soft, you can't hear their voice, and
Yeah, and that's
they're
my question.
young.
What does
Yeah.
how are you going to protect them?
Oh wow. Oh, that's easy. So not allowing doctors to unalive them.
And what are you going to do so that we don't stomp on the rights of the woman?
The women's right are superior to the rights when we're talking about absolute right to life. So the women's rights
No, the woman's rights are superior, definitely.
so the woman has absolute. So in it, what do you mean by superior?
I mean that her rights are superior because it's her body and it's her bodily resources, and if she wants to not give those bodily resources to another individual, she has every right to not consent to that. And if that means that the fetus needs to be removed, and if that means that the tragedy of the fetus passes away, then that's what happens. However, and this is my solution to protect the innocent life, quote unquote, of these fetuses' children, I don't understand why, moving forward, instead of staying in this headlock, headbutting, pro-life, pro-choice debate, why do we not join forces and pour all of our money into research and medical science and stuff to understand better everything we can about pregnancy so that we can learn how to, when someone does not want to carry on or to carry a pregnancy and withdraws that consent to that individual, that fetus can be extracted as as young as possible, as safely as possible, and then transplanted in some kind of like artificial womb of some kind. And then while it's developing, a family is vetted and ready for it when it's finished. I don't understand how that is not the next logical step for all the amazing things that we have done. We have robots doing nanosurgery for brains. The things that we have been able to do with technology and medicine is amazing. And I think that it's wild that people would rather stay stuck, stomping on people's rights and letting people die, than taking the next step and saying, how do we make sure that we don't stomp on the rights of either individual?
Yeah, like I wouldn't necessarily have a problem for that, and in this conversation, we would find some common ground there. I just don't. I can't see how we're saying that it's okay to dominate one body, which is the body of the small child that is also a human being, and because of the quote unquote body autonomy of the mother. I think that we should encourage mothers to not harm their children, and as a society, regardless of the child's location, whether the mom's breastfeeding the child or whether the mother is nurturing the child in her womb. It should all be under that umbrella of nurturing a young child, and you cannot harm the young child because it's inside of your body. There's no reason you have to provide justification on why it's okay to harm children because they're in
Then
your
I think
body.
you would agree with me that the solution is we need to change how abortion is done so that we can extract the fetus and have it not result in the death of the fetus.
Yeah, we can do that, but in the
Would you
meantime,
not? Yeah, would you not
we're
agree?
gonna kill them. Huh?
Would you not agree that that would then respect the rights of both
Sure.
individuals?
I think we're certainly moving in that direction. I mean, like obviously technology is moving fast. I mean, 15 years ago, um, if you're looking at where technology was compared to now, and women's health, obviously it can be moving at a better pace,
Exactly.
or a faster pace. But again, it is certainly progressive toward a positive direction, I would say. So
So at this
again,
point, would you then
yeah.
say, from this point moving forward, would you then say, like me, we would take the position that we are both pro-life and pro-choice. We want both lives to succeed, but we understand that the choice is fundamental. It is needed. It is the whole. It is the pinnacle of this freedom that we have, and to take that away is to stomp on the rights of somebody, and that is anti-American. We should not do that. So what we need to do is we need to call for both of these sides to stop fighting and instead come together so that we can advance both technology and medical wise to make this solution possible. It's very possible. Not what I'm saying is not sci-fi anymore. So, would you agree with me that at this point that we are both pro-life and pro-choice?
No, because pro-choice means that I'm pro the unaliving of an innocent child, and I don't believe that we should. I don't believe
No,
in
no.
like killing babies.
Pro-choice. Pro-choice means that you believe that one has the right over their own body to make medical decisions for.
Not in the case. Not when you're talking about another body that's at stake.
So if someone had a rare disease and needed a part of your liver to live, do you think that they could medically and legally force you to do that?
No,
Because it's at the
it's not.
expense
It's
of
not.
another life. A life
No,
will
it's
die
not.
without you.
No, it's not synonymous. Remember, I
It
showed you
is.
earlier how that's not synonymous because in one example, if that person who needed an organ, if they were to die, they're not dying because I didn't give them the organ. They died because they already had a pre-existing
They're
condition. Well,
yes, they're dying because you knew that you could save their life. You knew what it
no,
took
that's
to
not why
save
they
their life,
died.
and you made the
No,
decision. You made the active decision to withhold your bodily resources from them, which is your right. And the same thing with a pregnancy. If a woman chooses to not give the consent for her body to be used in that way, then she has every right to cut off those resources, which means the doctor should remove the other individual from her body. That
yeah,
is
I think
consistent.
that so no, it's actually isn't consistent because it's a category error. So you have one which is an active killing, and you have the other active unalive, and you have the other which is a passive refusal. So you have direct versus indirect harm. Like these are just so. For example, in your example, medically, if you were to go to the hospital and that person who did not say they were promised a heart and their heart did not come through, they wouldn't on their death certificate it wouldn't say that they died because the person refused a heart. It's going to say they died because they had a pre-existing heart condition. So that's why it's a passive refusal, which is an indirect harm. So in the case of abortion, the act itself causes the death of the fetus. It's not a passive refusal, like not donating something, but it's an active intervention that ends the life. Like no abortion doctor or nurse would deny it. They would say, yes, the fetus is dead because we killed it, we eliminated it, we aborted it. Abort. So women, when they go to get abortion, they go to not just remove the fetus. They're again, it's the unaliving of the fetus. That's what the procedure is. Now, until we have a procedure that it doesn't have to do that, then we can say, well, it's not an active killing. It's a passive it's just them removing it from the body. Then it dies because it bled out or oxygen. But again, every form of abortion known to man right now, it is a active, direct intervention that actually ends the life. Whereas in other cases, it's not. The person with a heart condition or that needs blood is not dying because I didn't do it. They're dying because they had a pre-existing condition. So that's the symmetry breaker. So that argument is not synonymous to a woman in her body autonomy. We have to find another position that's synonymous.
I would actually say that from how you're describing it, an abortion would be a passive action or a passive action at that point, not an active one, because it is like refusing to donate your organ. It is refusing to let your body be used by another individual. So how that looks results in the death of another individual in both cases. It is the exact same thing. Both of them are passive actions.
Okay. So you're saying that in the case of an abortion, in the case of refusing an organ, that they're both passive actions. I would say the distinction between an abortion and the refusing of an organ is that the abortion in the actual procedure is not it's not a passive refusal. So the reason it's an active intervention that ends life is because refusing to donate an organ allows the person to die from their pre-existing condition, whereas an abortion directly is the one that causes the death. Whereas in the refusal, so it can't be passive because it's the thing that's causing. Whereas it would only be able to be passive refusal if it was not the cause. So like I said, if they were able to do an abortion that did not stop the heartbeat of the baby, that did not suffocate the baby, that did not, in late-term abortion, crush the head of the fetus and then pull it out limb by limb. If that was not the scenario, then it would make sense. So just to give you an analogy, then I'll let you respond. Imagine someone is on life support, right? And the machine that's keeping them alive is in your home. You didn't ask for this responsibility, but because of the circumstances, their survival it depends on the machine and the electricity that's in your house. So you have two options. You either have the machine plugged in and allow them to stay alive until they recover or be moved, or you can actively pull the plug, cutting off their life support and directly causing their death. So in this case, pulling the plug is an active decision. It's not the same as refusing to donate an organ, which would be passively allowing someone to die from a condition that they already had. Abortion is like pulling the plug. It actively terminates the life because the fetus needs to survive, resulting in death. So when you refuse to donate an organ, you aren't causing the person's illness or condition. They are already going to die from natural causes related to their health. However, in the abortion, the fetus is not dying from an external illness or condition. It's the direct result of the abortion procedure. The abortion doesn't really allow the fetus to die. It actively ends the pregnancy and the life of the fetus.
Okay, so I understand your analogy. I do. Since majority of abortions happen in the first trimester before the fetus would even be viable, um, which is where a lot of, at least in my plan, a lot of where the medical research would go into is how to extract the fetus as young as possible with it still being viable. I think that's possible for us to do, and I think that you and I should fight for that instead of fighting for let's make sure that she doesn't have her rights. Um, so, since most abortions happen in the first trimester, where right now, currently, the fetus is not going to be viable if extracted, are you saying that you would prefer a different kind of abortion where the resources are just cut off so it's more quote unquote passive and the fetus starves to death inside of the womb? Because that sounds really messed up. Because it seems like the most humane way is to ensure that if there is no way that the individual is going to survive being expelled from the other individual, then to make sure that that death is quick and done and over with.
Yeah, so I
Why,
think,
why, why, why do you want the fetus to starve in the womb and slowly suffocate and die?
well, whether I would rather a C-section, but if we're talking about prior to viability, then
We're not doing a
again,
C-section for a first trimester abortion.
I know that's my point. That's why I'm saying if we're referring to prior to viability. So whether the method of of the whether the method of the abortion is active through like surgical intervention or passive from cutting off the resources, the result is the same, which is death of the fetus. So if you're proposing that we find new ways to extract the fetus earlier, that's like right now that's not I wouldn't say that that's not a viable option in the first trimester. Um,
But it
and
can be.
regardless,
You agree, right?
well, it would depend, right? Because if in fact the moral issue is whether it's active or passive. So as the outcome is the same, the
No,
fetus is going to
I think the
die. So
moral
changing the
issue
method.
is we can extend the life safely. Why can't we?
Oh well, yeah, I think that that's fine. So we're talking about extending the life, but if you're removing the fetus and it's going to die, then you're doing the same thing. It's the same
So
thing. You're actively removing the fetus.
I'm
Knowing,
confused because it seemed earlier with your example, the passive versus the active was very crucial in our understanding, and now you're saying that because the result is the same in both cases, it doesn't matter.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the moral issue remains that whether it is not active or passive, the outcome is the same. The fetus is going to die. So changing the method doesn't doesn't resolve
Okay,
the ethics behind the decision. So the ethics are still the
I
same.
I think it kind of does. I think it really matters how you end one's life if there is no hope for it to continue. Someone who is dying in the hospital bed, giving them some painkillers and for some relief so that they can go to sleep and stuff peacefully, and then coming in with a hammer and over the course of 5 minutes beating them to death with it. I think we would see a big difference between those two. You can't just say, well, the end result is the same, the loss of life,
Well, no,
so
that's
the
not.
method
Well, that's
doesn't
not what
really
I'm saying.
matter. Yes,
Well, I'm saying. Oh,
yes, because I said that in the first trimester, I think that since we don't have a way to extract the fetus while with it still being viable, then clearly the best thing to do would be to humanely end its life before any type of trauma or issues like that happen while it's being expelled. But it seems what you're advocating for is you would if abortions must happen, that it should happen more from a passive state where you're just not giving it resources, which means that the fetus would have to slowly wither and die inside of the womb before some kind of either unnecessary miscarriage happen, or there would have to be some kind of surgery because she now has an infection and her health is at risk.
yeah, I think you. So, do you understand when I was letting you know, regardless of how the procedure is done, if the active procedure, which regardless, I mean, we're calling it removing the resources, but again, we're just saying removing the resources is in fact it is an active direct causing active direct harm. So it's still aligned to my paradigm. We're just calling it removing the resources. So my point is that it still has the same
No,
ethical burden. And the
refusing to
point of me,
give the resources.
no, no, no. But in my example that I gave to you when I showed the difference between an active and a passive action, was that in the passive action, the the unplugging someone that's already in your house is plugged up to your house is the example that would apply. So if you're removing and you know that removal is going to cause the death, then you are committing an active harmful act to that particular child. And I'm saying that has the same moral weight as whether you're, poisoning a child or, violently hitting it with a hammer. It results in its death. So it has the same moral weight.
And I'm saying that if we end up medically having to terminate a human life, should we not do it the most humane way as possible, or does the method
Absolutely.
of terminating it not matter?
I believe that that's a false dichotomy because now you're presenting me with two options when there's more than two options. We could just not harm it. So you're asking me if we had one method to where we hit the baby in the head with a hammer. We have another one where we give it some poison and it dies, but it doesn't feel
I'm not
anything.
even just talking about babies right now. I'm saying if there's ever a time where medically we have to terminate a life, do you think that it should be done humanely, or do you think
There
that the way
there's
that
no
we
there's no
terminate the life
medical
doesn't matter?
reason. There's no medical reason to terminate a life.
Do you not believe in like a death with dignity stance?
What do you mean medical reason what do you mean by that? Medical reason to terminate a life?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Do you believe with like the death with dignity stances?
Death with
Do,
dignity?
yeah, do you know what that is?
I don't think it applies to this case. If you I don't think it applies to this case at
Death with
all.
dignity is like those like people who don't want to die, not knowing who they are, where they are, not being able to wipe their own ass, having to rely on everyone for everything, and so they want the legal right to say that when their progression gets to a certain point, that the medical team can put them to sleep.
How does that apply to an abortion? I'm confused.
No, because what I'm saying is that if we ever find ourselves in a position where we are medically terminating a life, do you think we should do it humanely, or do you think that the method doesn't matter because the end result is the same?
Yeah, I think I'm misunderstanding what you're saying because I would say the most if we're injecting dignity, the most dignifying thing is to like protect the life rather than and to allow it to live, not end it. So whatever I would say the most dignifying act is to allow the child to live, not ending it. So that's what true dignity comes from valuing
But not
life.
in all
So
cases.
if well, no, in this particular case, when we're talking about abortion, there's not just two options. There's three.
I understand, but again, I would like an answer to my main question. Do you think that if we have to medically end life, that we should do it humanely, or that it doesn't matter
Okay,
because the
so
end result is the same?
that's where. So we're not talking about abortion. We're talking about medically ending the life. So can you explain that example?
I think I just did.
Well, you said medically. What is the medical condition? Like, what's happening? I'm asking you to explain.
No, remember how I said, imagine, I said there are people out there that don't want to live in certain conditions, or not like, very advanced stages of Alzheimer's and stuff like that, not knowing who they are, where they are, not being able to do basic needs for themselves, like eat or, wipe their own
So
ass and
how does
stuff
that
like that.
apply to an abortion, though?
I'm,
I'm
it,
trying. I'm trying to figure out how to answer your question, but it seems like we're talking past each other because you're
just
saying,
forget about the abortion right now. That's not the main point of
"Oh,
this question.
yeah, okay,
The point of this question is that if
sure."
we
I agree.
is
Yeah,
that as a
yeah.
medical team, if the
Yes, yes.
if the medical team
Definitely.
is
Don't
putting a
hit me in the head
person
with the hammer.
down,
Okay.
Should it be done humanely? Should we
Yes,
try that it should be done
100%.
humanely, or
Yes.
does it not matter because the end result is the same? Could they
Yeah,
go in with a baseball bat and end that person, a good old fashioned few whacks?
yeah. I think that the support should be removed. So, for example, if you're talking about like some sort of form of assisted I don't know if you can say
Yeah,
that
yeah,
word.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, if you're talking about something like that, I would disagree. I believe that that's completely like undignified. But we're talking about somebody who's like in a coma, for an example, and they want to be unplugged. Like you just unplug the machine. If you were to go in there and hit them in the head with a hammer, that would be an active. Like that's different from unplugging, removing their support, opposed to like going in there and hitting them with a hammer. So, but in that case, I would agree that like obviously you want to show that person respect and dignity. You want to give them a proper burial. You if they wanted to be
Well,
cremated, you want to cremate them.
you want to give them
All of
a
that stuff.
dignified death. You want to give them the
Sure,
death that they want, and you want them to have as much control and
sure.
say over
I
their death.
agree. I agree. Yeah, I
So
100%
so
agree.
why are you
Yeah.
against things like assisted S word? Because if someone is saying I don't want to live like this, so when I get that to this point in my progression of whatever my situation is, I would like to be given medicine and go to sleep, and that's it.
Yeah, I would say that doctors take an oath to do no harm. So to end someone's life, regardless of their unless to end their life, like we're talking about them being in a coma, it is causing them harm. And I would agree that we should,
It's
and
ending
this
their harm.
this
It's
is
ending
now
the
I
harm.
would say this is my more Christian nationalism coming out. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this is something that has to be enforced, right? But this is my personal opinion since you're asking. But I wouldn't argue legally this has to be enforced, right? Because again, my philosophy is like you can go to hell in a handbasket if you want to. However, when we're talking about from a societal standpoint, should society get behind a law that says it's okay to end your life? I think that that's undignifying to say. I think that it's more dignity to help and assist others to live and to into pursuit of happiness, not to cause them harm by helping them harm themselves. I think that we should help those individuals not want to harm themselves so that they can enjoy life in the freedom that it brings. If you're talking about like for medical, like somebody's in agonizing pain, I had a grandma who had sickle cell anemia, and she would wake up oftentimes, in agonizing pain, since she was born with something she was born with. Um, like it was very painful. She took a lot of medication to numb her so that she would not feel that pain. I think that we can assist people by giving them medication to help them and to numb them and things of that nature. But if somebody were to say, well, my grandma's in great pain in a moment. She said, I can't take this. I wouldn't take a pill to end it. I think that that's unkind to her because it doesn't consider, well, once you do this, it's no coming back from it. And she might just be in a moment to where she's just in a lot of pain and she might not really wanted to do that. And for you to just assist her in doing that, I believe it's extremely unkind to her. And I don't believe we should do that to people.
So I hear you, but the way that I see it is that having a person unconsentedly, constantly confused, shitting themselves, having no idea why their kids don't come see them or what age their kids even are, and they specifically stated they didn't want to live this way. I think that is cruel, and I think that that is the harm. And I think that death with dignity, doing what they want and assisting them in that way, stops the harm. It doesn't cause harm. It prevents future harm. It stops it. So when we find out that people are irreversibly going to keep deteriorating and getting worse, I think they should have every right to say, once I get to this certain point and, there's no going back, I don't want to live any further on past that point. I think that that is kindness. And I think saying that, oh, just numb them up with some pills is cruel. I think that that is harm because I have people in my life that got um, hurt at work and stuff like that, and they ended up getting addicted to painkillers, and doctors just kept giving them painkillers and painkillers and painkillers, more numbing pills. Everything is just they're living in a foggy world, and it is so sad to see them like that. And it is disgusting of the pharmaceutical companies to just numb people like that. And the fact that you're advocating that that is the solution is just numb them up. I think that you are the one that are going to be causing the harm.
Well, let me give you a story to kind of to respond to that. So let's just say we have a woman named Sarah, right? So Sarah's father James was diagnosed with a degenerative neurological disease, right? So as his condition worsened, he became more and more frustrated with like the fact that he was not able to live the life that he once had. He couldn't work. His body was weak. He had difficulty remembering things. And he had told Sarah many times that, like, listen, sweetheart, I don't want to live in this state anymore. And he asked her and said, I need to explore the options of like assisted suicide because like like he believed that it was going to spare both of them the pain of watching him like deteriorate into like further the kind of some of the things you described, pooping on himself, et cetera, et cetera. So like his daughter was like devastated. Number one, she loved her dad deeply and she didn't want to see him suffer, but she wasn't convinced that like ending his life was the right solution. So instead of agreeing to his wishes, she and her family decided to focus on caring for him. So making the last stages of his life as comfortable and meaningful as possible. So they worked together to bring him into hospice care where he received medical attention, pain management, emotional support. Over the next few months, something changed. Though his condition began to worse physically, his emotional and spiritual health improved. So in ways that nobody would have experienced. So in his final months, Sarah and the family experienced a lot of meaningful moments with him. Even though he was losing a lot of life, he was still able to connect with his family. So, I think one of the fundamental differences in our worldview is that, life itself has inherent value. So even when someone is suffering, while we don't want to see nobody endure pain or hardship, the solution isn't to end that life. The solution is to find ways to provide care and comfort. If the idea is, well, whenever somebody feels harm, to just say they can end their life, then that takes away from the inherent value. So allowing somebody to end their life to avoid suffering assumes that life is only worth living if it's free from hardship. But in the example I just gave you, of my grandmom who woke up every single day in agonizing pain that's unbearable to the regular human being. She was the most influential person in my life, and I wouldn't be the man who I am today without her. And she was able to enjoy beautiful moments even when she was in pain. She would wake up in the morning and make me breakfast, and she would be scrimmishing and crying in pain. And I would ask her, well, why are you doing this? She said, because I love you and I like to do it. It makes me happy to do this for you. So I think that that's just a difference in our worldview. I don't think that the presence of suffering is the antidote to that is to end the life. I believe that's a bit nihilistic.
Okay, I got you. In your story with Sarah and James, like I get it, but I would think that that's James's right. It's his life. It's his decision.
Well, he's asking somebody
Sarah
else to
has
help him
to.
though. But he's asking somebody else to help him do something, so it's not just his right. He can't tell me what to do to him, right?
No,
That's I
no, he
had the
can't.
choice.
He can't make somebody do that, but he should have every right to go and seek a doctor and medical um, consultations for that.
Yeah, but doctors take a vow to do no harm though.
Yeah,
Like for example, like
and
can
as
I
I
go to a
said,
doctor?
it would be harmful to allow him to continue
But
living
that's
in such a
no,
state where he does not
okay,
consent to
so
living like that.
for example, if I go to a doctor and say, "Hey, I have cancer, and I need you to cancer's in my right foot. I need you to cut it out." Like they were like, well, that's not how that works. We're doctors. We have to look at things objectively, and we have to figure out if you actually have cancer. So I think that the problem is
Oh,
that
I
allowing
agree.
doctors
I
to
agree. I
assist.
think therapy is going to be the very first and necessary step
Correct.
for something like
Correct.
this.
Exactly.
I'm saying that people should have the right to it. I'm not saying that it should be easily accessible.
Okay.
We
Well,
should
do
make it
you
hard
think
as
that
fuck.
do you think that allowing doctors to assist in ending life sets like a dangerous precedent? So once we normalize assisted S, it can become easier to justify it in more situations. So whether it's terminal illness, chronic pain, mental health, it's a slippery slope that could lead to vulnerable people being pressured to end their lives, like because they feel like there's no easy way out, even though there might have been a way out. Like again, unfortunately, there's a lot of people in society who actually do take their lives, and we examine like, man, this is something that they probably could have got up, but they just felt like life was just so unbearable that the only solution was that. And who are we to seek to grant them that and say, shouldn't human flourishing be about persevering no matter what the obstacle is? That's what we should tell people. Not, hey, if life gets rough, life can get to a point to where it's just completely unbearable, and shouldn't we tell people there's no reason why you should end your life because you are that viable. Even in the midst of pain, there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. Should we not tell people that?
Oh, no, because it's not true.
It is true.
Sometimes there is no light at the end
No,
of the
no, no, no,
tunnel.
no, 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 no.
Sometimes
Technically,
whatever you end up with
technologically,
when
it's
you're
true.
old and deteriorating just gets shittier and shittier, and you get weaker, and everything gets worse, and you get more broken, and you get more confused, and it just keeps getting more and more
That's
terrible.
nihilistic. That's nihilistic though.
Not everyone just goes through the suffering of old age and dies happily on their deathbed going like, oh yay, at least I went through all this. Sometimes no. Sometimes, yeah, it's true, and sometimes it's not true. So I don't think that we should be saying that as across the board.
Right. Okay.
I think that when we're saying that doctors should do no harm, I agree with you, and I think that letting someone live in agony is causing harm, and it is ensuring that the harm continues. So I think that people should have the right to say, hey, like once I reach a certain part of my irreversible deterioration, I want to have, a certain day that I talk to with my doctor where they'll be able to put me to sleep. And you know what? I'm going to have a good vacation the day, the week before. I'm going to take my whole family somewhere. I'm going to make, all these memories for them. We're going to take all these pictures, and stuff like that. We're going to watch, our favorite movies, make our favorite foods, and yeah, I'm going to be in pain because moving, is painful. And yeah, I'm going to suffer, trying to walk up all and down these, stairs and stuff, but I'm going to be surrounded by my loved ones. It's going to be great. And then I'm going to, have my doctor, my nurse there, and I'm going to, be around a campfire. We're going to send all the children to bed, and, I'm just going to go to sleep, and I'm not going to wake up, and I'm not going to live the rest of my few months or whatever confused, not knowing who my kids are, shitting myself, not being able to eat, not being able to wipe my own ass or anything like that. That is dying with dignity. I think forcing people to suffer and end their lives in such agony and confusion is not dignifying. I think you're stripping them of that. I think it's horrible.
Do you think there's a difference between physical pain and the value of life?
Um, Physical pain and the value, yeah, there are two different things.
Okay, so
I did bring up someone who does I guess it's legal in where you're at, dying with dignity, and maybe if there's something that we're getting wrong in the
Oh
process,
no,
if you could correct us.
yeah, it is. It is completely legal here, but it's not something that you can just one day walk up to your local hospital and go, yeah, I'm sad, so I want to unalive. That's not what the process is. It is a whole process you have to go through. You have to be evaluated by multiple psychiatrists and everything to make sure you are of sound mind and understand the decision that you are making. I myself have told my children that you can actually sign something of this ahead of time, that if I come to a certain point where, like the host said, my quality of life is diminished, it is gone, I don't feel that I have it, that I want to be to die with dignity. I want the euthanasia option.
Thank you for explaining that. Aaron, do you have any questions for I Spy? More of us getting accurate information on what exactly is happening with this?
Um, well, I appreciate you for sharing that. I guess who gets to decide when
I
a
do.
life is no, who gets to decide when a life is no longer worth living?
I do. As the person
Okay.
whose life it is, I get to decide what I want to do with my life, with
No,
my
no, no, no,
body.
no. I
In
think you're
all,
missing my. I spot 1 second. I think you're missing my point. You said that there's someone's being evaluated, correct? In
well,
order
yes,
to.
you get
I think,
evaluated.
yeah, I think he
So
means the
it's
medical team.
psychiatrists. You go and make sure you're of mental sound mind to be able to make such a decision. But honestly, if you were to deny me, let's just say they denied anybody, if they're going to deny them the ability to die with dignity. So I'm getting to the stage in, say, my illness where I'm very frail, but I'm able to still move about, and I got denied. I can guarantee you I would do it anyway. So why not allow me to do it in a more dignified manner?
I think if that's your argument, you're asking someone to do something. What if that person says, "Hey, I actually don't want to help you in that. Like it
Well,
doesn't,
see, in my
it goes
country,
against."
because it's legal, the doctors, they are allowed, some doctors, they're allowed to say that that isn't the field, that the part of the field they want to be dealing with, end of life services. But there are doctors who are perfectly okay. Just like there are doctors that, deal with heart surgery, but not all doctors deal with heart surgery. And some doctors deal with obstetrics, but other doctors don't deal in obstetrics. There's doctors that deal with end of life services.
No, I definitely understand that. So, again, my point was like number
Can
one,
I ask you a question? You've asked a lot of questions. Can
No,
I
no,
ask you one?
yeah, you can, but let me just make this one statement, then you can ask me the question.
Well,
So,
I just actually, it's just a quick one. Why are you so against someone being able to make that decision for themselves? So you're so against assisted side.
that's a great question. I felt like I answered it earlier, but I
I
can
might
go
have missed
ahead.
it.
No worries. I'll go ahead and answer it again. Um, it comes down to the example that did you hear the example I gave with Sarah?
Yeah, I heard that, but that's a person who maybe is being able to be swayed. They haven't been tested. Deep down, what is the thing you have with a person being able to make the choice to unalive themselves?
Well, psychiatric evaluation is not foolproof. You agree?
No, I don't agree, especially when you have a board of psychiatrists who decide on it. What if I just decided, you know what, I'm not even going to go with the board. I'm just going to go and pinata myself. I'm going
I
to
would.
go and dangle from a tree. What
I
if
would.
I decided to do that? Would you be against me making that decision fully for myself and doing that?
Yes. Yeah, I would be. I
Why are
would
you
be
against someone making that
because
choice for themselves?
because I love that person, and I believe I
You
would.
don't know me, so
Well,
what would you be
I'm
against
not.
me doing that?
Well, I don't know you, but I know you're a human being, and you
Yeah, and
deserve
I made the
life and the
decision to
full.
do something with my own body.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying, but you're actually not giving me the chance to respond, and I know that I don't know if this conversation is like emotional for you or something, so I
Oh,
don't want
no,
to
let's
like.
not go with emotion. Don't
Well,
do
I'm just
that,
saying you're not
sir.
allowing me to speak. So if you
I
want me
am
to,
allowing you to speak. I think
well,
what
So,
deep down,
so,
do you
so
think we
maybe
have a
let's
soul?
maybe let's
maybe we
let maybe
can.
let's clarify this way. What what is it about a human's life, Aaron, that you value so much that you think you can take someone else's choice away on how they feel the best choice for their life is?
I'm not taking their choice away. If the person, I'm not. Again, I think the issue is we're talking about assisted. So if you take that word assist away, we're talking about something different.
But
So
the
assisted
doctors are fully
involving
fully there to help you with that. So you're saying that what you're forcing a doctor to
They
do, they
committed
get to
murder.
make that choice too.
It's murder.
It's not.
Okay,
Do
well,
you think we have a soul?
no, I spy. In our country is murder. I'm sorry.
No, actually, there's states in the United States where it's not. There is
Yeah.
assisted suicide in some states in the United States. Sorry, I said the word.
Okay,
So
in my state is illegal.
Yeah,
It's murder.
but it should be my moral right to make that decision for end of life for myself. Do
But
you think we have a soul?
I believe in God, so yeah.
And there's why you are against it, because you think something bad's going to happen to me if I unalive myself, correct?
No, no, there's no biblical proof for that. So no, I don't believe that something bad is going to happen to you.
So why do you think that it's a bad thing for me to make a decision for myself and go and get someone to help me with that? Someone who wants to help people die with dignity.
Because life is not defined by the pain.
Yes, it is. For some people, it is. You don't get to tell me what I define my life by. If I don't want to suffer, and that causes harm, by the way, so you said do no harm. Suffering causes harm. So if I don't want to suffer, I should be allowed to make that decision, and people should be allowed to help me end it in a peaceful manner.
I'm very sympathetic to what you're saying because, as I discussed, I had a grandma that had a
Yeah,
cellular
I
disease.
heard.
So I watched her since I was a little boy,
Mm-hmm.
at least I can remember, wake up in agonizing pain. I would watch
Yeah,
her
and she
make.
chose to do that. But if she chose
Well, let me
not to
finish. Let
do
me
that,
finish.
that's
I
also
don't
her
think she.
right.
I don't think she chose to do that. It wasn't an option for her not to. So you have to
But
be
if it
careful with what
was,
you're saying.
and let's just say it
I,
was an
I don't.
option. Let's just say
I
we're
don't know.
bringing that where you live, that your
She might
grandma
have.
would have
She
been
might have.
allowed to make
She
the decision
possibly.
to not
She po-
unalive
okay,
herself, and
all
she
right,
chose to
guys,
not unalive herself. That's
Yeah,
a
let's
she can.
choice
dial it
I
she
can't.
would
back.
She
make.
keeps interrupting me. I can't
I
talk to
don't
her.
want the over talking. Let's dial it back. I think this brings up a good point though. If she did have the option, regardless of what she has,
I would
whatever,
understand
regardless of what she had chosen, I think what Ice and I are saying is that she should have been, or it should be her right to choose for herself. And you have the choice to love her regardless of whether of how she wants to die or not. And I think that the loving thing to do would be that, hey, grandma, if you're in pain and you have the right to say, I don't want to keep living like this, then she doesn't have to.
I personally think my mother is actually preparing for that right now.
Okay,
Oh, he left.
yeah, I guess so. Well, I hope he has a good night.
My
But
mother is kind of preparing for that right now. I'm pretty sure of it. She hasn't out and out said, but my brother passed away recently, and my mother's very old, and she is actually very frail, and she can not move around very well. She's on oxygen all the time. She's like, and I think she's planning that. She's planning to, because she's already putting stuff into motion. So, and I
okay,
totally respect her for that if that is what she decides to do. I think it's selfish to guilt someone into living just because you can't handle it and make them live day to day in excruciating pain because you aren't prepared. If they're prepared, then they're prepared.
I I agree, and thank you for coming up and adding to the conversation. I'm gonna let you go, and we're
Yeah,
gonna
I'll drop
talk to
down.
Bite. All right, hey Bite, how you doing?
I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm doing well. What on the background would you like to talk about?
Yo, what does the last thing say is wrong? What is that?
Uh, people that are LGBT plus. Do you think that that's wrong? And if so, why?
I think it's more of that the shit that comes after the LGB. Mostly, I don't fuck with that stuff at all.
So only gays and bisexuals. Everything else is what? Just made up?
think, I think it's more like a mental illness, to be honest with you. The rest is
Why?
all the sexuality.
So, well, I mean, like one of the things for being or in the plus category is polyamorous, or yeah, it's poly. Would that's a sexuality. That's people that it doesn't matter what's inside someone's pants. They like the personality of the person, and that's who they end up being attracted to. That's an orientation.
I
So
mean,
you
this
don't think
is,
that everything in the plus
like I
is
said,
ridiculous, then, right?
the sexuality is completely different than this gender identity shit. That's how I feel about it.
So you think gender is a mental illness?
No, I think people that have a gender identity are mentally ill.
Do you not have a gender identity?
No,
You're you're not a man or woman, so you're non-binary.
I don't sit there and tell people that I'm a man or a woman or I'm a she, he, him. Stuff doesn't matter to me. It's a
Okay,
state of
so
being.
you're non-binary.
Call it whatever you want. If you have that mental illness, then hey man, you can label it whichever way you want to.
I
I
don't
grew
see
up in the
how it's
'90s.
I don't see
I
how it's a
didn't do the
mental illness though.
non-binary thing. Yeah, if somebody thinks that there's something that they're not and have a self-perception, it doesn't change reality. That's why they get so much pushback from people in general.
I
It's not normal.
Who are you to say that they're not who they say they are?
Please, man, you can't fool everybody. You can fool yourself.
I'm just trying to understand your position. You're not explaining it well.
It's pretty damn easy to understand. If somebody thinks there's something, that's their perception of themselves. Reality doesn't change because you perceive yourself as something.
Okay, and when someone says they're a man or they're a woman, you think that has nothing to do with reality.
Well, if you're a man, you're a woman. That's just objectively what you are. Your gender
So you
identity
do
is your perception of
you do
yourself.
think gender exists,
I think gender is directly related to sex. You will not have gender without sex. It's impossible.
but biological sex and gender are two different things. You would agree with that?
No. I think your gender is based biologically on your sex. Sorry, objectively on your
If
sex.
something even if something is based off of something else, they are two separate things. So you are
Listen,
admitting that there's two
you can't
separate things with your own statement.
you can't know what a man is without basing it on the male sex. It's impossible.
No, because in society we have certain traits and characteristics that we apply to more masculine roles and that we apply to quote unquote men. Like, for example, I'm sure you've heard the terminology used a lot in your life. I have at least. Be a man. A man, is strong. A man takes care of his family. A man protects the weak and stuff like that. These are not characteristics of biological sex or associated with biological sex in any way, but we understand that we have attributed these type of certain attributes to men.
Yeah, no one's been confused about what a man or a woman was until this gender ideology thing started. It's
No,
not really up for
actually,
debate, I feel like, most of the time.
no, actually, see what happened is that as we learn more things and we define things better, certain people educate themselves and move along with it, while other people would stay ignorant and then say, "Oh my God, I'm confused. Where did this come from?"
No, we're not confused. We just don't agree with your perception of yourself.
I mean, you seem confused.
So is gender and gender identity two separate things or not?
And I never said that. I said biological sex and gender are two separate things.
That was a question. It wasn't a statement.
Yeah, I know. And I'm saying that I was talking about biological sex and gender.
Yeah, but I'm asking you a question. Is
Yeah,
gender and gender identity separate?
I'm still waiting for an answer to my question from the beginning. How is trans or non-binary or any of that a mental illness?
Because you think you're something that you're not.
They think that they're a human being and that they are either in some way associating or not associating with the roles that you think they should be.
It doesn't matter what you think of it. You are what you are. You having a self perception of
Yeah,
yourself is great and
they
all,
are
but it's
what
not
they
who you
are,
are.
and your perception doesn't change it.
Yeah, well, my perception is based on objective reality. That's the difference.
Objective reality that you haven't been able to show. So
I mean, I'm not the one confused. I don't go around having a gender identity.
yeah, I'm not confused either. I've been the one explaining things to you. So and
I've
thank
never
you for
needed
being
someone to
open with your
explain it.
non-binariness. It's okay.
I mean, you can. I mean, I guess you could play this little joking game all you want to. It's fine. I
I
don't know
mean,
what
based on what
non-binary
you're
is, and I
telling
don't
me,
care what it is.
I'm only going by what you're telling me. If you don't want me to say that, then don't give me the
It's
information that
interesting.
says that.
It's that's interesting. Did I tell you I was non-binary?
You said you have no gender.
No. Did I say I was non-binary? Just
You
answer the
said you have
question.
no gender. That's what non-binary
Okay.
is.
So did you hear the words come out of my mind that I'm out of my mouth that I'm non-binary? Did I say that?
No, but you gave me the definition for non-binary and said that was
Well
you.
then you're presupposing something. It's not
I'm
very
I'm
smart of
I'm
you.
so sorry that I'm smart enough to know that what the word is for the definition you gave.
Also, because somebody doesn't agree to what you're saying, you're going to tell them what they are.
You can look at the definition. If you don't agree that that's what you are, then you need
You
to
you
stop saying that's what
you,
you are.
you can't define what I am if I didn't say anything to you. That's
You
just that you're just literally assuming. Not intelligent at all, in my opinion. Well, that's more of a fact, but yeah, I don't even understand how you're confused about this.
Oh, I'm not at all confused.
Well, I mean, look at you guys on these applications. And this all due respect. You guys sit on here all day arguing with people
I
about your
don't sit on
perception of
here all
yourself.
day.
But I mean, what's the point of what you're doing right now?
I like
I'm
having these
curious. What is it?
conversations.
I mean, what does it do for you?
It actually, I get more educated. I help educate other people. Knowledge gets spread around, and I think that that's a good thing.
No, you don't come on here to educate people. What are you? What is?
I
Sorry, this
come
is a
on
better
here to
question
learn,
for you
and
actually.
I hope that other
What
people
makes?
can learn something from what I say. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, what are you qualified to teach or educate people on?
Why do I have to be qualified or have a degree in something in order to teach someone something?
Well, I wouldn't trust
I,
most people that aren't
I'm not a
educated enough or
mechanic,
have a
but
degree to
I'm not a
teach you
mechanic,
something.
but I can teach you how to change a tire.
You don't need to be a mechanic to change a tire.
Okay, so I can teach something
Mechanics
even
work
if I'm
on. You're
not
talking to a
qualified.
car guy.
So
You're talking to a car
I
guy.
don't have to be qualified in order to be able to teach something.
You're talking about changing a tire, and
Hmm.
you're comparing that to you
And I'm not a
educating people
mechanic.
on gender identity, right?
No,
I
I
think if you
never
had a
said that I'm
degree in something,
educating people on gender
yeah.
identity. I said that I
I
come on
don't come
here,
on TikTok.
bite,
Yeah.
bite. Let me answer your question.
Yeah,
I
I'm
said that I
listening. Go
come on
for it.
here and I like having these kinds of conversations because I hope to learn something new that day, and I hope that somebody else gets to learn something new
Mm,
that day. What is the issue
mm,
with that?
no, you're full of it. With all due respect, you don't care to learn anything,
That's okay. You're
especially if you're
entitled to your wrong
presupposing
opinion.
things. Opinions aren't right or wrong. Sorry, that was wrong what you said there too.
It's a joke. I'm sorry that you're not smart enough to catch it.
Well, I mean, you're calling me non-binary, right?
Because you said you have no gender. I'm so sorry if you don't
Okay,
know words and definitions.
what's this is amazing. Okay, perfect. What's your gender?
I'm a man.
Okay, no, you're a woman.
Okay. You are entitled to your wrong opinion as well. That's fine.
Well, then I guess then you were entitled to your wrong opinion about me, then, correct?
Yeah, except unfortunately I'm not wrong because you gave the definition for non-binary.
Says yeah, then says I'm not wrong. The oxymoron. This is funny
Well,
as fuck.
either, and there is one other option, which I did give earlier. You are simply incorrect on your definitions and terms. So you can just admit that you don't know what you're talking about and you're wrong about what you're saying, and save yourself further embarrassment and humiliation.
I'm, I'm not embarrassed at all. I actually am
You should
extremely
be.
educated and I make a lot of money and I run my own businesses. So yeah, I'm pretty good in life. I'd ask what you do with your life that makes you feel like you're more educated. I'm curious actually.
Number one, I actually know the definitions for the words I use, unlike you.
It's not what I asked you.
That means I'm doing better in life than you because I'm a better communicator and I'm able to actually say the things that I mean, unlike you, which means that you don't have good communication and you lack the ability to
Do you
share
know
your
what I do on
position
set all day?
properly to people. I don't care
Do you
what
have
you
a
do on
clue?
set all day. It's not relevant. It literally doesn't matter, and you trying to brag about your life means shit. Alright, everyone, that was Bite. I had fun. Thinks he works for Hollywood. I don't know. People are crazy. Right? Nobody cares. We had fun.